this year has been awesome. This is our last club meeting, and this is the first year we've done club meetings, so it's, I think, drawn a lot more people in. I hope all of you are encouraged to apply for our advisory board next year, and applications are out, and they're due at the beginning of April, I think next week, right? April 8th? Yeah, in April. You can pick them up in the counseling office. April 10th. Okay. So today, as y'all already know, we have our Be Smart Day. And throughout the day, names of people that everyone probably knows were called, and people were killed, people were injured, and people were arrested. And we wanted this to be very impactful, and I think it did do the right thing, and it sent the message out. We had a bunch of positive and negative reactions, and the positive reactions are like what we were hoping for, and it makes us want to like improve this project so next year it's better. I was working so hard on this, and I hope that all of y'all enjoyed it. I'd love to get y'all's feedback, so after this club meeting, if y'all want to come up to me and talk to me about it, that'd be awesome. But now I will turn it over to Dylan Belden, and she will talk about our speaker for today. Thank y'all for being here.
Hello everyone, I'm Dylan Belden, and I'm an executive officer with Winter Circle. Our speaker today is Lainey. She's a 2009 Churchill graduate who is on the cheerleading team all 4 years of high school. She was involved in a drinking and driving car accident that left her paralyzed at the age of 16. Following high school, she received her undergraduate degree in communication science disorders from Baylor University in Waco. And she received her master's degree from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And she is currently a pediatric speech language pathologist. So everyone give a hand for Lainey.
One more thing before Lainey gets started. These were all of our participants today, and they did an awesome job, so give them a round of applause.
But I'm afraid Graduated exactly 10 years ago. I cannot believe that. And I was involved in a drinking and driving car accident in 2008. Whenever I was reached out to and asked to speak at this, I didn't know how I was going to approach it. This is a hard topic for me to talk about. So I did something a little bit different. I reached out to my best friend and her mom, and my mom, and I asked for them to write something based on their perspective. I think we all have a little bit different perspective of the night of the accident and the events following. So you can go to the first slide, or the next slide, thanks. So I'm going to start with my perspective. I'm going to apologize now because I know I'm going to get emotional talking about especially my best friend's mom's perspective and my mom's. So just to give you all a heads up. Okay. So the evening of the accident. I promised my mom I would be home by curfew. I promised I would be making good choices that night. I promised I would work the Fiesta Nyosa booth with her the following day. I broke all of these promises that night. Pink lemonade UV vodka will forever remind me of the day of my accident. Mainly because this was one of the last memories and the few images I have from the night. This is very transparent, I'm gonna warn y'all. I also used it to wash down a Xanax bar I decided to take that night. The plan was to get drunk, go dancing at a club, and then go home before my curfew. My mom and dad would never know that I had been binge drinking, as I planned to run upstairs to my bedroom and sleep it off when I got home. Little did I know I would never make it home that night. I don't remember much of the night of my accident, and to be honest, I'm very grateful for that. But I do remember the image of the bottle and the decision I made to take the Xanax bar for the first time. That was the first and the last time I ever took a Xanax bar. Then I'm going to go down to waking up in the hospital. My first memory of waking up in the hospital was a bright orange sign on the ceiling that said, "Stay strong, Lainey." Where was I? I had no idea. It felt like a dream. And then I looked to my bedside and I saw both my mom and my dad crying. I had never seen my dad cry. This was the first time in my life, so I thought it was a dream. My mom looked at me and said, "You were in a very bad car accident. It's a miracle you're alive right now." I had no memory of being in a car accident, and I was very confused on where I was. A few days later in the hospital, my mom was sitting at my bedside, and we were both facing the same wall. And I looked down at the foot of the bed and I said, "Hey Mom, can you move your feet? I really want to see my feet." My mom watched me struggle, trying to understand what had happened. And she told me, "Elaine, those are not my legs. Those are your legs. You're no longer able to move them because you suffered a spinal cord injury and you're now paralyzed." I put my hands on my legs and I felt nothing. I started to hit harder and harder, and I was panicking because I couldn't feel my own hand on my own leg. About a week later in the hospital, to this day, was one of the scariest moments of my life. I was struggling to breathe. I remember looking at my mom and telling her that something was wrong, so she immediately grabbed a nurse to tell her, "My daughter needs a doctor now, please go get one." The nurse looked at my mom and said, "Oh no, Mom, she's got a lot going on right now. She's just anxious." Every breath I took made it harder and harder to breathe. I remember thinking to myself, "This is it. This is the end of my life. There's no way I'm going to live through this." My mom grabbed the nurse again and told her, "I know my daughter, and this is much more than just being anxious. Please get a doctor now." My lungs had been filled completely with blood and had to be removed. The blood had to be drained out with 2 chest tubes on both sides. The injuries I got from the accident included broken ribs, a mild concussion, ruptured spleen, which had to be removed in an emergency surgery, pulled ligaments within my neck. I don't know if you guys saw in the picture, I had to wear a neck brace for 3 months. So when I got out of the hospital, I was still wearing that neck brace. And my spinal cord injury, which left me wheelchair bound. And then I'm going to go into the first year following the accident. Going back to high school in a wheelchair was one of the hardest things I've ever done to this day. I wanted to finish out senior year being homeschooled. My best friend Jordy, who's here today, she would not allow that. I felt ashamed and I was embarrassed for the consequences and what happened to me. When I got back to high school, the hallways that I once walked here at Churchill, they felt much longer. They were harder for me to get all the way from one side to the other. The stairs I climbed to get to classes were non-existent in my routine anymore. Not just going back to school, but going into public places was very hard. I had one designated bathroom that allowed both me and my wheelchair to fit in comfortably. So if someone was, and still is, using the bathroom, I have to wait for it. I have a designated section to sit in at the movie theater, and I could probably write an entire book on how much the handicap parking is abused and why people truly, in chairs, really need these spaces to be able to get in and out of their cars. Not only was my public place experience different, but my health was also at risk. My feet will always swell up, forcing me to buy a bigger shoe size. Putting on heels is a mission. Don't like to wear heels. Sensation is limited, which puts me at risk for burns, scratches, and pressure marks. The first year following my injury was probably the hardest because people were returning back to their lives, and mine was permanent. It wasn't changing. It wasn't going back to what it was. So it really was a moment of me realizing this isn't going anywhere. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, I've read this one like 3 times, and every time I've gotten emotional, so I'm going to warn you guys about that. Evening of the accident. This is from my best friend Jordy's mom. My husband was out of town, and I was asleep when I thought I heard the doorbell ring in the middle of the night. I got up, and my daughter Jordan and her friend Patrice were sleeping in Jordan's bed. I looked out of our picture window, and I saw 2 police officers walking back to their car. As a parent with 2 children in college, I was so scared to go to the door, but I knew I had to find out why they were there. I opened the door and I called out to them. It was a very calm, beautiful night, and everything was so still. The officers came to my door and asked if I knew my neighbors. I said yes. Their son was in an accident and they were trying to contact the parents. I contacted the driver's parents by cell phone and they had already been notified. They thanked me and started to walk away, and then one stopped and turned around. He said there was also a girl in the car, and maybe you also know her. At that moment, I instantly thought of Lainey. He told me the other person in the car was Elaine Loyola. He asked if I knew her, and I replied, that's my daughter's best friend. The police officer said that the accident had happened. When the accident had happened, another police officer was on 1604 headed in the opposite direction. And that he said the car entered the highway ramp at a very high speed and never turned and went right into the concrete center median. He saw the car flip several times. The police officer immediately exited the highway and headed to the accident scene. At first, the police officer originally thought the driver was the only person in the car, but then he saw a purse on the floorboard. He started to look for another person, and he found Lainey in some tall grass. He said that Lainey was awake and spoke to him, but could not move her legs. He said he knew it was critical to get them both to the hospital as soon as possible. The officer requested air life. Usually paramedics have to evaluate the patients before air life is called, but that officer made the request, which was instrumental in saving the lives of both Lainey and the driver. I knew I needed to go to the hospital, and I decided not to wake up Jordy and Patrice. I went to the emergency room when I tried to comfort her parents while they were both in surgery. The doctor came out to give an update on Lainey's surgery. He told her parents Lainey suffered a spinal cord injury, and he provided an update about her other injuries. At that point, Lainey was in critical condition, and we were just praying to get her through the night. The one thing that I knew in my heart was that Lainey was a fighter, and I was praying that that determination would be enough to get her through the night. I went home and I waited for Jordan and Patrice to wake up. I told them about Lainey's accident and the injuries. They were in disbelief at first and did not want to accept that Lainey might never walk again. I told them that they needed to be strong for Lainey and they needed to accept that she was paralyzed so they could be ready to help her when she was awake and in recovery. There were tears and a desire to go to the hospital to be at her bedside. As people found out, many of the cheerleaders came to our house to be together. Although they knew they could not see Lainey, they wanted to be at the hospital to be closer to her. Being together really helped them support each other. Okay, and I'm going to go into the first time seeing Lainey in the hospital. I was so happy to finally be able to go in and see Lainey. Although it broke my heart that she was going through so much, I was so happy to be able to see her and let her know that I love her and be there for her recovery. The year following. Lainey's first year was a year of recovery, change, faith, and friendship. Lainey not only had to heal from her physical injuries, but also work through the emotional issues and adaptive changes. Her life was forever changed, and she was blessed with her faith in a group of friends that were going to be there every step of the way. Lainey continued to amaze us with her recovery and determination. I'm not going to say that it was easy, but each step of the way was another reason to celebrate her life and her strong faith. And you can go to the next one. This is kind of from my mom's view. Okay, evening of the accident. The evening before Fiesta Friday. Elaine pleaded with her parents to go out with her friends. Neither parent wanted her to go out. She impressed upon the fact that she was doing volunteer work with us, selling churros at Nyosa, San Antonio's signature event. Please let me be with my friends tonight. I gave in, her father did not. After some serious convincing, we let her go, and a reminder that her curfew was 11 p.m. Close to 11 p.m. came, and no Elaine. Her brother stated, "This is senior night. Why did you let her go out?" I looked at her cell phone location and saw 1604, and it wasn't moving. I kept trying to call, no answer. Still saw 1604. The phone rang. The parents of her boyfriend tells us that both kids have been airlifted to University Hospital. My husband and I rush over there and are not able to see her. A lady comes out and describes a young girl. She has her belly button pierced and the ID of Maggie Kilgore. I tell them that's not my daughter, for she does not have her belly button pierced. This is something I did behind my mom's back without her consent. We are directed to a waiting room as she had an emergency surgery for her ruptured spleen. We wait endlessly until a young neurosurgeon comes out and tells us your daughter will never walk again. Overcome by shock, stunned by the overwhelming emotions, this is a bad dream. Waking up in the hospital. The next day, we are all in a room. She is tethered to ventilators and other intensive care devices, unable to move, and she is sedated on morphine. Her brother sees her and immediately breaks down. His good friend Kelby embraces him for a long time. I help turn her, and Elaine's back looks like a checkerboard of vertebrae from side to side, all the way from her upper chest down to her lumbar spine. The first year following the accident. The first year following, she was in intensive rehabilitation. She was transferred to Santa Rosa as she was still considered a kid at 16. She met some fabulous PT and OT providers. She was like Humpty Dumpty. She could not sit up without falling sideways, frontways, and backwards. She got discharged from the hospital after being in the hospital for 6 weeks. She wanted to be home for June 6th on her birthday. That entire summer, she went to rehab Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. The goal was to become independent. Not a great way to spend your summer. No summer vacations, no floating down the Como River, no SeaWorld, no getting together with friends too much, no driving. After rehab, she went to return to finish her last year at Churchill in a wheelchair. She did not want to go back due to the judgment and the humiliation of making a poor choice. I insisted that she go back. Life goes on. She made a poor choice. You either persevere or you pity yourself. Elaine chose to persevere. It was one of her most difficult years. It was like having a scarlet A on yourself as a parent, or perhaps to Elaine. It takes courage. She spoke at the Shattered Dreams program. She had opportunities she would have never had, like being in a research study to use a robotic walking device. She had to grow up fast. She got to see the best people in the world, the best people and the worst in people's behavior as they treated her now. She's now married to a great young man and is working as a speech pathologist. She's done well. I applaud you, Elaine, for your strength, your community service, and your amazing achievements against such adversity that include discrimination. May there be more accomplishments in your life. You are my hero. As my good friend Larry told me, mothers never get over seeing their child in a wheelchair. Elaine was the phoenix rising during this less than wonderful time of our life. This tragic event transformed us into stronger and better individuals. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. The event created such mental and physical stress. And you can go to the next slide. The reason I decided to get my perspective, Jordy and her mom, and my mom's perspective, was because when you make a bad choice, it's not just on you. It affects the circle of people around you and the people around them. It has a chain effect, and it's a lifelong injury or condition when you have a bad, risky behavior. You can go to the next one. I don't condone this by any means to be drinking and driving or even at a party drinking. Most of you guys are underage, so you guys have so many more options available to you than I did when I was in high school. When we were in high school, we had razor phones. We did not have iPhones, so Uber, Lyft, all of those things were non-existent. So when and if you find yourself in a situation at a party, don't get behind the wheel. Use Uber, use Lyft. I encourage you to call a parent. If I could have called my mom and just dealt with her grounding me for a year, that would have been so much different than being in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And also, I know sometimes when I was in high school, people would want to drink and then go get food. You guys have food delivery options that we did not have. You have, I don't know, Grubhub, Uber Eats. I'm not sponsored, by the way. This is I don't get anything from this. So it's just a lot different, and you guys are a lot luckier to have these options that we did not have. You can go to the next one. I always would tell myself, if I could go back 10 years later, and all the information and things that I've learned now and tell my 16-year-old self something, 3 things. Number 1, your health is the most valuable thing. You have one body and one life to live in it. Protect it, take care of it. As you age, it's not going to be the same. So really be mindful of what you're putting into your body and the behaviors that you're partaking in. Number 2, what was it? Risky behavior is going to lead to risky outcomes. Let me backtrack on that. Risky and being around a risky environment, you are already putting yourself in a risky situation. You can be at a party and not be drinking, not be doing drugs or whatever's going on at that party, but you are putting yourself at risk for something to happen. You could be backing out of a parking space and, I don't know, one of the other people at the party who's been binge drinking hits you and kills you. So be very mindful of that. And one other, let me backtrack on that one again. So I say that because the night of my accident at the after party, everyone that was there, drinking or not, doing drugs, smoking pot, whatever they were doing or not doing, they had to be questioned. They had to go through an investigation just because they were around that environment. So just be very mindful of where you're at and what you're exposing yourself to. And my last piece of advice would be, I know this can be hard and I struggled with this in high school, is I really, I encourage you to have an open communication relationship with a parent or with a brother or a sibling or someone that you live with. I know those aren't always easy conversations to, I don't know, drunk dial or mom would be like, I'm hammered at a party, can you come pick me up please? But I think having that open communication is so important, and just telling your mom, hey, this is the plan tonight. I want you to be aware of where I'm going to be and what's going to be there. I think it's very important, and it can really save your life or someone else's life around you. So I did want to open the floor to questions, if anyone has any questions or anything. Not a single question? Sorry, I don't even have my glasses on today. Go ahead.
What happened to the driver?
I knew that question was coming. The driver did suffer injuries. He shattered his pelvis. He had, my mom's a nurse, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mom. He ruptured his large intestine. He had a head injury and he ruptured his large intestine. He had a colostomy bag for a year. Everything was repaired. Within a year, he had a full recovery. He did go to jail. I think our trial, the accident happened when I was 16 years old. We didn't go to trial till I was 19 years old. I had to testify against him. That was very hard. I had to say everything that happened that night, everything that I did, drinking, taking the Xanax bar, and the judge did sentence him to prison for that. Any other questions? Yes. No, I think when you're around a certain crowd, you always hear the 5 people you hang out with the most is who you are. And I think when you are around that crowd, and he was all older than me, so I think part of that was kind of trying to fit in and be cool. But no, he by no means said, put the bottle to my throat or anything like that. It was all my decision. And I'm very transparent at that. Any other questions? Yes.
So, throughout this whole situation, what was the hardest part for you? Like, mentally?
Mentally. I will say that some of the relationships, you really find out people's true character in the toughest situations. Some of the people you think are going to be there to hold your hand through the whole thing will not. And some of the people that you might not have talked to for years will really step up to the plate and help you out. And those are like really the people you should keep close. So I think the hardest part was realizing people's true characters in this situation. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Who is Chris? Was he your friend or like?
Did you catch that on the slideshow? His name was on the slideshow. So that was actually my ex-boyfriend in high school. And that was the driver of the car. We dated for, I think, 2 years in high school. So yeah, it didn't work out. I think either way, it just didn't work out. I think it caused a lot of stress in our relationship following the accident too. Any other questions? Sorry, I can't see. I'm pointing wherever everyone's directing me, so go for it. Was there a third person in the car? No, it was, I was the passenger, Chris was the driver, and we hit a median. And then Brenda, my best friend's mom, mentioned that a cop witnessed the entire thing. Both Chris and I were ejected from the car and landed in completely different spots. So when they got to the scene, they didn't even realize that there was a girl in the car until they saw my purse. Yes. I did at first, but I don't know how much of them are real because I don't remember, I remember bits and pieces of the night of the accident, but I have no memory of the accident at all. They said I was talking to them in air life the entire time, giving them like a false name, and my thought behind that is I know I'm in trouble with my parents, so I'm going to give someone else's name. I really have no explanation for that. But I used to, I think the first year, not so much anymore. Any other questions? Yes.
What's been the most shocking thing that, what's been the most shocking difference between how people treat you before the accident and after the accident? What kind of off the most?
The most shocking thing. I think sometimes people are intimidated to talk to me, or I don't know. I think dating was a lot different for sure. That was a bit of a shock. It's a lot different, and I even said in the court date, my biggest fear was I would never get married. Who could love someone in a chair? Sure enough, I found someone. Yeah, go take a bath. Did that answer your question? I feel like I kind of circulated around it. Anyone else? I'm sorry? What all was going on at the party? Okay, so the night of my accident, I don't think this exists anymore. Every holiday, it was usually a Monday holiday, we had a thing called Guy Senior. I don't know if that's, I think it's non-existent now. Where a bunch of seniors would rent out a club. So that Sunday night, because usually some clubs are, but a club that wasn't open on Sunday, they would all put in money to rent it out. And the whole idea behind Guy Senior was just to get plastered and go dance, and it was just a bad idea. So the night of my accident, we did like a pre-party, and then we went to the club, and then there was an after party. There was drinking, there was smoking pot, there was Xanax bars. That's all my memory, those 3 things that were going on. Did that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay, my question, just knowing you and knowing the situation.
Yes.
I think the worst part is I know your parents. I know you brought it. That wasn't your choice. Can you elaborate about the peer pressure around that? Like I said, I'm not saying you raised your hand and said, yes, I did that on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But before you got to that stage, somebody had to get you in that position. I know the way you were brought up, the way you didn't raise your hand and say, I want to leave this, I want to do this. So,
no.
Talk about the peer pressure. I think that's what helped the kid more, because I think they all go through that, especially at church. You know,
Yeah. No, I was not the one who asked to go buy Xanax bars. I think when you're around a certain group, you do feel a certain pressure to act a certain way to fit in. So it's really the people you expose yourself to and kind of what they're exposing themselves to. Did that kind of?
Yeah, like I said, it's not worth it.
I agree.
I experienced it. My kids went to church. My youngest, I begged him to stay. He begged me to leave. But he was with the wrong crowd. He was in sports. He was popular. He was,
Yeah.
But I think it's important to say, hey, just because that's your friend, and they're bringing you the wrong path, it's okay to say, hey, stop, no.
Yeah, and definitely I encourage you to say, take a step back if you need to.
I think that's what the thing is. I'm saying, you didn't. That wasn't your choice initially. I'm saying I think it's a pressure around it.
But you can't choose who they choose for their friends.
No, but
And
I'm
that's
saying.
what I had to
We
difficult
got a
time
heated
with,
debate
so-
going on over here.
You can't choose who your friends are, because that would be judging my daughter, and I don't like my daughter's choice of friends. It's like we only went to psychiatrists and psychiatrists.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Did you know that he was under the influence, or did you feel like he was okay?
So that's the thing is, yeah, I don't remember. I was drinking, I was under, took a Xanax bar, I don't even know what the high for that is called. So I think my judgment was fogged. So I really couldn't give you an answer to that. I think when you're drinking and you're hammered and you're high, your judgment is fogged. It's not going to be the same as when you're sober. So, yes, go ahead.
Are the people that were at the party with you still there after the accident?
That's a good question. I would say about half of them. About half of them, yes.
Can you repeat that question for everybody?
Yeah, she asked me, were the people that were at the party with me that night, are they still there? Are they still there for me, or were they? I'd say about half of them were. But like I said, people that I hadn't talked to in probably like 5 or 6 years really stepped up to the plate, and they were at the hospital every day making my family dinners and really taking care of us. So, yes, right there in the red shirt. I think it's red.
Before you took anything, did you think that possibly you were going to get hurt or anything was going to go wrong?
That's a very good question. You can ask my mom this. I thought I was invincible. I didn't think anything would happen to me. You know, you always think that's never gonna happen to me. I thought that all the time, and it did happen to me. Even I had a friend that was at the party that night that said, I feel like we were all pushed up against a brick wall with the spotlight, like going back and forth between us, and it just stopped on you. Because you always hear that, oh, that's never gonna happen to me. And I know that my mom had parents talking to her like, oh, you know, thank God that wasn't our daughter. My mom was like, that was my daughter. You know, it did happen to us. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Right there, behind me.
Where were you headed when you got into that?
I was on my way home. I was on my way home, and I didn't make it home. It was after the after party. Anyone else? In the back.
Do you know how long he is in prison for?
Oh, I didn't want to go down this path. He got out of prison. He is no longer with us. He had an addiction problem, and unfortunately that took his life. I don't know if it was guilt. I really pulled back from that relationship pretty early on when I needed to, because I knew I needed to take care of my health, and I needed to get better, and that just wasn't helping me. So I think he was sentenced to, was it 7 years? You remember, Mom? He was sentenced to like 5 or 7 years. He got out on like, I think 1.5 years, 2 years on good behavior or something. So, yes, in the back.
Were there any parents at that party?
No.
That a lot of kids. Do you feel like it's okay to get together in the sense there's a parent involved? So I'm just curious to see.
No, it was actually, the after party was a friend who was 18. So he had his own apartment and he was a senior. No, he was at home. It was his apartment, so no. But I have, in high school we did have parents that would kind of, not I guess condone it, but they would, I guess their intent behind that was they're gonna go out and get drunk somewhere else, so why not just do it here? I don't want them out drinking and driving, so some parents would allow that. Like I said, you only have one body and your health is the most important and valuable thing. You really need to protect it and take care of it. Yes, right there.
This party was like a regular thing among the seniors. Was there no type of like driver that would be like the designated driver? Was there
No.
a system for that at all?
No, we were 16 and stupid. We didn't think ahead like that. Not saying that 16-year-olds here are stupid, but we were at the time. Yes, right there.
Do you still drink, or have you been sober?
I have not been sober. I'll be honest. I have a glass of wine with dinner. I do not drink the way I used to in high school, though. I'll have a glass of wine or something with dinner, and honestly, that puts me to sleep these days. As I'm older, my body I can't handle it the way I used to. Any other questions?
We'll do one more, and then we'll
Okay, sounds good.
You said these parties like happen like not very often, but like that happened before, like the one you went to. So when y'all would all go get like plastered at the party, would y'all all just drive home drunk?
Yes.
Like all of you, always?
Yes. I mean, unless, I don't remember anyone really having that open communication with the parent that they felt they could call a parent to pick them up. The idea behind it wasn't drinking and driving, it was just really drinking. But yeah, they would all drink and then drive home.
Did it make a difference at Churchill with other people that might have partied before and they drove after the accident?
So I think I senior got shut down after that. So in a sense, yes. I'll be honest, my senior year was a big fog because I was just kind of in and out of classes. I was going through a big recovery. What do you think, George? Do you feel like it had a difference on kind of the partying scene after? Or Kristen, you can.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it definitely, people saw the consequences and
Yeah.
realized that things happen.
Yeah.
I think really it stopped for a while, but then after things
I agree.
kept going, then
I-
now it's back to how it
Yeah.
was before.
I feel like there was a period that it died down because I don't know, it was so real, and people knew me and they saw what happened. But then maybe a year or so later, it kind of picked back up, and yeah.
Can you introduce your friends and family?
Abs-
Stand up.
Absolutely.
One at a time.
One at a time. Okay, Jordy, you guys probably recognize her from the slideshow. That's my best friend. She's still my best friend to this day. And then Brenda Davis, that's her mom. Yep, you're good. This is my husband, John Carta. My mom, Susan Loyola. And then this is her boyfriend, Michael. One of my best friend's dad, Robert Sanchez. And then my best friend, Kristen Smith. She went to high school with me too. And then over here is my roommate from college, Kat Princess. She went to Reagan. Thank you guys so much for coming and just being present for this.
We have a gift for you from Winter Circle. We have a spiritual cheer shirt from their competition this year.
I love it.
So we have a Winter Circle shirt.
Thank you so much.
And then we got you another gift.
Oh, one of my friends owns this.
Or whatever.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming. This is our last club meeting again, and we really appreciate y'all coming to listen to Lainey. And she was amazing, and we thank her for being here.